bent. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four with my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four with my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
And we are going another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. So let's get started. I just want consistency. I just want us, if we are going to have opinions and give takes and give critiques or give analysis, I just want consistency. I don't think that's a lot to ask for, but a lot of people in sports media do apparently. The Chiefs lose to the Buffalo Bills, and I knew this was already going to happen because it happens every year with the Chiefs, which is, and it's been happening especially this year. The Chiefs, it doesn't matter how ugly the loss, doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter how pretty the win, how pretty the loss or how ugly the win. It doesn't matter. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, and we all just have to accept and kiss the rings of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Even though there's several measurables and different metrics that would show you that even though this is the two-time defending champ, even though they are the current dynasty in the NFL, they are much closer to the end of that run versus the beginning. We never want to admit this in sports, and especially once a team has won. Most dynasties close really quickly, which is why most of them never become dynasties in the first place. Teams win a title, and then you think because they have the star player, and they just won, and they have the great head coach, and a good front office, and we're like, this is going to last forever, and boom, it's over much quicker than you think. Russell Wilson, when he was younger, with the Seahawks, that was supposed to be a dynasty. The Legion of Boom, win a Super Bowl, lose a Super Bowl, never make it back, boom, it's over, they all hate each other. This current version of the San Francisco 49ers, they've gone with two different quarterbacks, but this core have been to multiple NFC Championship games, have been to multiple Super Bowls, and the expectation, myself included, was, well, they're just going to be great as long as they have Kyle Shanahan and these set of guys. They're 5-5. Most dynasties, and it doesn't matter the sport, Giannis went at his potential physical athletic prime, wins the title, and best player on the planet has a 50-point closeout game, and we're like, Giannis is about to take over. Have you seen the Bucks lately? Let's just be consistent about how we evaluate these things. Dynasties don't last forever, and this version of the Kansas City Chiefs is not a great football team. Are they at least a very good football team? Obviously. I don't think between Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, I don't think they could be a bad football team. I think they have too much good coaching that goes on. But why we don't treat this team, this specific version, this specific year, like we treat the Steelers, the Steelers just got a great win against Baltimore. People feel better about the Chiefs losing to the Bills again than they do about the Steelers getting a great win. When neither offense is dynamic, both have great defenses, and both have, and I know this is cliche and you're going to kill me for it, but both have Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Yeah, I know. I'm a little bit of a hater. But the reality is, those two teams, and I've been on this point all season, those are very similar teams. Ironically, that's also the 1 and 2 seed in the AFC. Them and Buffalo. Sorry, they're in the top 3 seeds. They're fighting for the 1 seed. Them, Buffalo, and Kansas City are the 3 teams that could potentially get the 1 seed. And even Buffalo, we acknowledge Josh Allen has taken a step back from being a super dynamic, do-everything playmaker, and he's getting less turnovers, and he's more efficient, and the Bills are winning because they are relying on Josh Allen less than they have in previous years. But we say that about Mahomes, it's sacrilegious. It's like, oh my gosh, how can you say that about him? He's the greatest ever this, he's the greatest ever that. He just, at one point in time, even the biggest Mahomes, again, let's be consistent. Let's just be consistent. Stop changing the narrative just to fit that week what you wanted. One of the biggest Mahomes he's a fan of the team, but fanboys or biggest supporters, Nick Wright, I'll always remember this. He used to say that there was a distinction between, he said Mahomes is unrivaled because the distinction between Brady and Manning early in their careers when they had a rivalry is because Peyton was winning all of the individual statistic awards and he was the guy throwing for 4,000 yards and he was the guy doing all of this stuff from a offensive perspective, and it looked prettier than Brady, who was more of a, probably the greatest game manager we've ever seen, as well as having a strong defense and head coach. It was more of a cultural thing with Brady, but he was winning all the rings. And he used to say Mahomes does both. He's like, Mahomes has all the individual awards, and he's got all the team success. Post Tyreek Hill, we have 1 year of that being true. We are now multiple years post Tyreek Hill, and the offense post Tyreek Hill, post teams figuring out how to play defense against Patrick Mahomes. Again, yesterday, yeah, he threw 3 touchdowns, also threw 2 interceptions. These plays that we are used to him making, because him extending the play, running downfield for a first down 11, 12 yards, or throwing on the run, these plays that has made him famous, he's no longer doing that as efficient. So he's no longer the great all-time statistical guy plus the all-time winner. He's just not. That's just not who he's been post that first year without Tyreek Hill. People are catching on to the Kansas City offense. These other coaches, the other coordinators, they get paid too. They are starting to figure this out. And all of these close games, yes, maybe the Chiefs were coming from a place so high when Kelsey was still in his athletic prime and Chris Jones in his athletic prime and obviously Mahomes in his athletic prime, that they were far above everybody else. But they have come back down to earth. That's why they're in all these close games. That's why they were supposed to lose last week. Now, the coaching is great. I'm not nothing negative to say about what Reed and Spagnuolo do. The coaching is fantastic. We've seen now twice in the last 2 weeks. First, the Chiefs blocked kick on Denver, and now Green Bay's block kicked on Chicago. Now this is the first time in my life I've ever heard stories about, yeah, we're watching the trajectory of the ball and, the way the guy sets up, and that's how we knew to crash this one side, or how I've never heard that in my life, and I've heard that in back-to-back weeks. So I don't deny that the coaching, what Reed and Spagnuolo do, that's what this team is now. They are a great coached, older stars, and a bunch of young guys. And that gets them to this point, but this is no longer some dominant, clearly the best team in the NFL. And that loss, again, they could have lost the week prior. All these games are coming down to one possession, one play, one possession. The Chiefs are not this dominant 9-1 team. They could very easily be 5-4, 6-3. Again, going all the way back, the season started where Baltimore could have won if we got a toe in. They don't blow people out, and it's going to really show its head, because this is where we evaluated the Steelers. The Steelers a couple years ago, when Ben Roethlisberger, there was one of the last years of Ben Roethlisberger, and they got off to the 11-0 start, and no one took him seriously. No one took him seriously, because we had that style of play when your quarterback is no longer in the upper echelon of the elites of football, and you have to rely on your defense, and your offense is just scraping by even with weapons. No one takes it seriously. No one's ever vindicated that kind of a Super Bowl champion or best team in the NFL. That's just never how we've done it. And to start now is disingenuous. It's not consistent. But again, the media was so wrong last year, and because they won the Super Bowl last year, no one wants to sit there and say, oh, they're not going to do it because you're going to look like an idiot on national television. So let me be the idiot on national television. Not YouTube. Same thing. Let's just be consistent with how we rate these teams. Kansas City is the Pittsburgh Steelers wearing red. And no one's scared of the Steelers. And I don't think no one should be scared of the Chiefs in that same capacity. And we're going to get the greatest test, because everybody's looked great against Carolina, except the other truly awful teams. Let's see how Kansas City looks against Carolina. Because I guarantee if that game, are we going to then start changing our minds on how good or great they are? If they play Carolina and you see the same type of game, the same kind of offensive struggles, the same kind of not getting consistent offense in these one possession, if they're in a one possession game late with Carolina, are we going to start looking at them a little funny? Man, it was a great weekend for me. Look, Chiefs lost. Love it. I'm a hater, but I can be fair too. I just want the consistency. And Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos won 6-5, balled out. I know people are going to leave the chat right now. It's fine. Bo put up the first rookie quarterback in NFL history to go 80% completion, 4+ touchdowns, 300+ yards. He did everything fantastic. And this is why, and I will bring this up as long as I continue to do this, the great quote by Chris Carter, Hall of Fame receiver, 99% of players in the NFL are system players. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't need Bo Nix to be generational. I don't need Bo Nix to be the system. I don't need Bo Nix to be the 1% of guys ever to play this game. But what Bo Nix has done, and you see it not just in the way that, not just what the stats are showing you, but just the way that he plays and the way that you can see he's clearly learning what Sean Payton is doing for him. What Sean Payton is doing for him is getting him, hey, this is my offense, and we'll start incorporating the things that you like to get you the easy throws, and then we'll transition you from what you were doing at Oregon and Auburn into what we're going to do in the NFL. His feet are more secure. His footwork is getting better on a week-to-week basis, which is reflecting in his arm strength. If you saw the throw to Vele yesterday, zip, boom, that's footwork, that's technique. You do not have to be some superstar level talent to succeed. I've said this since the beginning of the season. Caleb Williams has more talent. Jaden Daniels has more talent. Drake May has more talent. McCarthy and Penix, slightly similar built, but if you want to say they're more talented, fine. You could say the 5 guys drafted in front of him were meant to be drafted in front of him because they were better or more talented. Cool. But Sean Payton had a goal in mind. He had an idea, and he stuck with it. How many times have we talked about franchises that are on different pages than each other? The head coach isn't on the same page as the GM. The GM's on the same page as the owner. And because of that, they draft the wrong guy. They don't get the right coach. They're not everybody's on the same page, and you can't go anywhere as a franchise when you're all running different directions and you've all got different ideas and you've all got different goals. The Broncos figured out, and Sean Payton figured out, this is the guy I want. This is what we can do with him. And he wrote up a vision. He wrote up a game plan. And say what you want about his struggles to start the year. All the rookie quarterbacks struggled to start the year. Caleb's still struggling. Jaden Daniels is still struggling right now. He obviously got off to the best start. But Jaden Daniels is struggling right now. Bo Nix is the only rookie quarterback from start to where he is right now where you see early struggles, starts to figure it out, and now we're seeing him get better and better and better. He doesn't need to be Caleb Williams for a talent on a talent level. He's not. He doesn't need to be Jaden Daniels on a talent level. He's not. But if you were to close the offensive rookie of the year race right now, how do you not give it to the guy with the most total yards, the most total touchdowns, and the guy who has this, by the way, and this is Bo's for if you want to get really nerdy about it. Jaden Daniels, yes, has one more win. He also has no wins against a team above 500. Jaden Daniels, and him and Caleb Williams both did this, because Caleb's best 3-game stretch were against a very injured Rams team, the Panthers, the Jaguars. They were both beating up the clearly awful teams in the NFL. Bo has wins against teams that are above 500. And I know the Charger game, they're down 23-0. Fine. Played like shit in the Chargers game. Cool. Guess what? Rookies are going to have bad games. That happens. The teams are going to have bad games. That happens. But start to finish, Sean Payton had a goal. Bo has delivered on the goal. They're in unison. The team is going defensively. And again, right now, and Bo's got wins against more above 500 teams. So this is something that is sustainable. This is not just beating up the dregs of the league, and that's where you get most of your stats, and you get these kind of awards that feel, did you accomplish as much as the other guy? Bo's wins against teams above 500. He's getting better week to week. Just had his now best game is better than everybody else's best game. Take Caleb's best game, take Jaden's best game, take Drake May. And Tony and I are going to talk about this a little bit. I like the talent of all these guys. And I say they're all better than Bo. But coaching, a direction, that's how you get the offensive rookie of the year. And if we pulled the ballots right now, Bo Nix is the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL. Man, lots to talk about today. Excuse me. what's the problem with the Ravens? Is it as simple as saying, is it coaching? Heard a lot of different people today, a lot of people giving different opinions, a lot of people giving takes. Tony's going to stop by, and of course, it's Monday, so we got to discuss HardRight, HardLeft. I think we got the most right, and then we got the most wrong this last week. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. their owner is impatient, crazy, and irrational. Because I like Shane Steichen as a head coach. I do. I'm not as familiar with the general manager. I'm not going to really quote, how good or bad he is. He has gotten guys like a Quentin Nelson. If Anthony Richardson did develop, he's gotten a Michael Pittman. So he's, I believe, with who the overall talent on the roster, general manager, good. Good enough, at least. Especially when you have someone like Shane Steichen as your head coach. But I do firmly believe the decision to bench Anthony Richardson was a call from Jim Irsay, who wants to be back in the Peyton Manning era where he's winning 10, 11, 12 games every single year. His quarterback's throwing for 4,000 yards. He has one of the best offenses, one of the best teams in the National Football League. He wants to go back to Andrew Luck those first couple of years, winning 11-plus games, making the playoffs. That's what he believes. He believes that the Indianapolis Colts are one of the best franchises in sports, not just that they were lucky to get two supremely talented quarterbacks. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody as always. So, some jobs are not as hard as we make them out to be. Some jobs, because we personalize everything and it's our own day, we feel like, oh my gosh, my boss sucks, my coworker sucks. A lot of things we end up a lot of us make our own job harder than it actually is. And then we tell people you just don't understand. You're just not there. And it's like, no, I can understand your job's not as hard, but I get it. We're emotional beings. We love to bitch as a nature and as a human being type thing. And in the NFL, this is also true. Some jobs are easier than other jobs. John Harbaugh should have one of the easier jobs in the NFL. John Harbaugh has Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey. Like, he has, when you start looking at the top end guys, the Ravens have one of the best rosters in football. This should be one of the easier jobs to maintain. This should be one of the easier jobs to evaluate. It's not, you don't have to be extra fancy. You look at Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is an extremely talented roster. And look what he's doing in Detroit. They will run the ball, do the basic stuff, let Jared Goff throw it X amount of times, and they are just beating people's faces in. They're doing it simple. He understands. For the teams they're just better than, don't mess around. Just be better than them. They were just better than the Jaguars. They beat the Jaguars, dropped 50. A couple weeks ago, again, they're just better than another team. They dropped 50. You don't have to be fancy. Dan Campbell gets that. John Harbaugh, all these Ravens losses feel the same. If you go look at a Ravens game and it's just whoever they're playing, you just see the score and you're like, Ravens lost. One of the first things you already know is going to be there in the stat sheet is Derrick Henry, less than 15 carries. You got less than 15 carries? Okay, I understand. Like, you just know that's associated with a loss. You know, them throwing the ball 35, 40 times. It's associated with a loss. And Lamar is great. And the people that try to use that as a jab at Lamar, get over yourself. Lamar is a great quarterback. Lamar is a great playmaker. But that team, to be its most successful, there's a reason why the best play in the NFL all year has been RPOs. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. Most unstoppable thing in the NFL currently. And no one can stop it except the Ravens play callers who just decide, the Ravens coaching staff who just decide, we're not going to do it. We're just not going to do it today. Like, the Ravens are they're one of the best rosters in the NFL. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. And it's like a coin flip watching them play because you never know what they're going to decide to do that day. Are they going to embrace that they have the best running team in the National Football League and just keep doing that because they know it's unstoppable? Or are they going to try to get cute? They're going to try to do extra stuff. Again, most jobs aren't as hard as we make them out to be. I don't really have a lot more sympathy for John Harbaugh, even though, yes, did he cause Derrick Henry to fumble? No. Did he cause Justin Tucker to miss kicks? No. But when you decide that you have Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers who stepped up, you've got a good offensive line, you've got Roquan Smith, you've got Kyle Hamilton, you've got Matabuke. Like, at some point, Kyle Shanahan did this during the Niners, these last 6-7 years of the Niners run. Why be overly complicated on defense? I have Nick Bosa, We brought in Hargrave. I've got pass rushers. I've got Fred Warner who I can just line up in the middle. I've got good corners. I've got a good safety. I don't need to be overly fancy. Again, we all love it when a great defensive coordinator, great offensive coordinator is dialing up these exotic blitzes or these exotic schemes on offense, these crazy route combinations. You know who didn't really have a lot of crazy route combinations? The 07 Patriots. They were just better than people. They would say Tom Brady would hike the ball, Randy Moss would start running a route, and he just knew Randy's going to win that route. You know who didn't have a lot of great defense? He wasn't running a bunch of exotic schemes. Look at the all-time great defenses. Denver just played a game. The no-fly zone was there. They just knew if we line up Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, we had Von Miller rushing the passer, DeMarcus Ware, Wade Phillips, who had a handful of exotic blitzes in his package, didn't need to because he had 2 Hall of Fame pass rushers and 2 Hall of Fame corners. Sometimes it's just take a deep breath. Your job's not as hard as you think. Do the easy shit right. It's that simple. Sometimes it's just literally that simple. And with that, we introduce the richest man y'all will never meet. Tony is in the building. How we doing, man?
What's going on, man?
Do you still get those as we get older? I like to think we all get out of it a little bit, but do the Ravens still fuck up your week from time to time?
Nah, they barely fuck up my day.
So y'all
Honestly.
you and Will more mature. I go about I'm gonna say the first 30 minutes now after the game, the Chiefs game, I was sick for an hour. I was just that was supposed to be the one.
No, I'll still think about the game and kind of just replay it in my mind just as a sports person, but it bothering me, the L or whatever, it's all right, whatever.
And congrats to niggas growing up and maturing, man. Because that shit in middle school, I was sick until at least Thursday.
Oh, yeah, I was no good until the next win, honestly.
Oh man. So I think a lot of the national media today, as I'm watching shit, I think a lot more people are now starting the conversation around John Harbaugh and, is coaching the problem? And I don't want to just repeat that because I feel like everyone's going to talk about that. So I want to ask you 2 questions in regards to the coaching. Is A, who would, and you don't necessarily have to have a name of a coach who's currently a coordinator, but if you had to put in a quote unquote the ideal replacement for Harbaugh, then who needs to be the next coach of the Ravens? Exclude the guys who obviously aren't going anywhere. So Andy Reid's not going anywhere, Sean McVay's not going nowhere, stuff like that. Who would be the ideal coach for this Ravens team and Lamar going forward if Harbaugh's not going to be there no more?
It would have to be somebody that is, for me personally, I would want it to be somebody younger. You'll have people immediately kind of lean to the Belichick of it all, and I think Belichick's done. I don't think he even wants to come back. I think he's probably the happiest he's been in a long time, if ever. So I don't really. I think he's done with the game. But I would prefer somebody young. I don't have a ideal name or something like that, just because you don't know how those guys are going to be. If it's plenty of offensive coordinators, you can okay, the Ravens should hire him. You don't know if he's going to work. He could not work. I'm not one to say that John Harbaugh should be replaced with this coordinator or this guy, but has to be somebody young, somebody that's, can command the respect of the locker room, or at least somebody that the guys want to respect and want to and feel like they'll enjoy playing for. And that could be anybody. Shit, that could be a quarterback coach. That could be a wide receiver coach, a DB coach. That could be whoever gets in that room and impresses Steve Bisciotti and Eric DaCosta and Ozzie, if he's still involved in the process, whoever can get in that room and interview well and do a good job, then that's who should get the job. But I can't answer the question and say I think it should be this guy or that guy, because I don't really have that, that answer.
No, that's fair. I think John Harbaugh got probably So all these guys have to answer like a million different media questions, and so I don't take a lot from most of them. Generally, though, you can get frustration is when guys get really honest, and you could tell Lamar yesterday where he made the same comment you made on the show a week ago or 2 weeks ago, where he's like, honestly, I feel like the last 2.5 years, like when we lose, it's on us. Like I don't feel like anybody actually comes here and beats us. We just like we find a way to lose the game,
Mm-hmm.
and that's whether people want to say it's in the moment or emotions, like that's a really damning comment for your coach when you're star quarterback. And it's like, well, we know he's not the problem. We know. And again, when they lose in these ways of like, you can almost go to a game if the Ravens lose a game, and they're like, okay, how many carries does Derrick Henry have? And you just know it's going to be a low number. And it's like, all right, we can't keep doing this, guys. All right. So a little about this yesterday over text. Justin Tucker's obviously he is in the conversation for the greatest kicker ever. Due to the time I started watching sports, for me, the only other guy I'd probably say is in the conversation is Adam Vinatieri, but that's because he's also the kicker attached to the greatest dynasty and won several Super Bowls. So his standard, and we discussed this, is obviously higher than 99.9% of guys who have ever done this. Do you think this is Tucker is going to work this out, or is there any? Well, I know you don't, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I guess, what's your confidence level that this is worked out in the next couple of weeks over the next month, and Tucker gets back to being Tucker?
On a scale of 1 to 10, probably like an 8 or 9. Like and that's like honest. Like he's going to be fine. It, they need that bye. Having a week 14 bye fucking stinks.
Oh man.
When you're in this spot, it's great if you're winning and you can kind of like just breeze into that. But it sucks when you're in dog fights for divisional championships and wild card spots and all of that junk. Like you see it now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to kind of get it going on a week to week basis. They had what was that, 13 days between the Bengals game and the last game, but it's still not the same as a bye. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
just can kind of lock in on these things and you don't have to prep for a game in that way. Um, but yeah, 8 or 9 if we talking scale of 1 to 10, because he's missing left every time. So he's not kicking it crazy and the ball's just ending up anywhere. It's
Mm-hmm.
missing left every time. Most of the probably of I would say of 80 to 85% of the kicks that are being missed are online. They're just kind of drifting off at that last second. They're drifting left. So that's a matter of, partly he said his confidence hasn't taken a hit, and what else is he going to say?
Mm-hmm.
I think it has, and that's natural. Like that's natural
Yeah.
for a guy that has done this at the highest level for so long. When you start to miss and you're missing kicks that were routine for you for over a decade, even going back to Texas, really,
Mm-hmm.
it can fuck with you a little bit. But he's he's going to they'll get it together. He hit the 54-yarder after missing the two. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's still got it. It's just a matter of finding that consistent form for him again, getting out of his head with it, and execution wise, getting the snap time right, getting the whole time right, and kicking it, online like he does. But I think he'll be fine. Like I've said this in tweets and things like that. Like if it comes down to it, rather it be big playoff game or Super Bowl, when it comes down to it, and number nine's got to trot out there to kick it in a big spot, I want nobody else in that spot.
No, it's valid. Um, do you now, and I know you associate a lot of the loss or a lot of those style of games to John Harbaugh. Are you more worried, less worried about the Steelers after Sunday's game?
No more worried about the Steelers than I was before that game. Like I didn't I didn't go into that game feeling like the Ravens were going to like beat their ass by 30. Like I said this would probably be a game that come down to who gets the ball last. Like who plays cleaner.
Yeah.
And the Ravens didn't play the cleaner game, and that's what it comes down to. I tweeted this out. I think I tweeted out, or it's definitely in one of my group chats. Is that the Ravens are going to be fine. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to win. They have 6 games left. They'll win at least 4 of those games, I feel like. for the rest of the season. I predict they'll win out because the matchups kind of favor them a little bit, especially with like 50-50 between road and home. And then two NFC teams who Lamar, is only one has won it essentially every game against. But like I said, they'll be fine. They're going to win games. They're going to make the playoffs. They can't beat the Chiefs. Oh well, they can't beat the Chiefs until they do. They can beat the Steelers. They just don't beat the Steelers. That's the difference. When you watch the Ravens play the Chiefs, it feels like they just cannot beat this team. You don't watch the Ravens play the Steelers and feel like they can't beat this team. It's like, why aren't you beating this team? It's that feeling.
So you don't feel like it's I know you've said in the past, Harbaugh versus Reed, like Reed is just his kryptonite kind of thing. Do you feel that? So you don't feel that same then kind of, you don't get that same feeling Harbaugh to Tomlin that you do Harbaugh to Reed?
No, because when it comes down to Harbaugh and Tomlin, it's a matter of Reed psychs John out from the standpoint of, I raised you in this. He didn't, but it's kind of him being on that Eagles staff and going through that. Like it's a father thing. Whereas with Mike Tomlin, it's the fucking, how can I compare it? It's being Charlie Brown, and Lucy is just constantly pulling the football away. It's like, you really don't have to like keep doing this in this way, but you're telling yourself this is going to work. And what I mean by that is John Harbaugh continues to go into these Steelers games with this approach that we're going to be more aggressive, we're going to be more physical, we're going to impose our will in this way. And Mike Tomlin is like, no, you're really not going to. You're not going to come into these games in the way that you used to when you had 52, when you had 20, and you had 55. You're going to come into this way how you want to do it. And what that means is passing the ball more. The team isn't as disciplined as it should be. You're turning the ball over more. And that's not on John. John Harbaugh did not tell Derrick Henry to fucking fumble. He didn't tell Isaiah Likely to fumble. Like, he didn't make Justin Tucker miss kicks. So I don't put that on him. That's not his fault. But it's how this all goes, every time you play. And at a point is like, okay, when are you going to be the team that commits less penalties? When are you going to commit to running the football, even if it's for 2-3 yards a carry, and just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, because eventually it's going to wear the opponent down.
1,000%.
So I say all of that to come back to, I don't feel like it's the Reed effect on him from Mike Tomlin. It's just Mike Tomlin being more committed and more patient. Andy Reid being the offensive guy he is and just doing this at a high level for so long, it's a matter of scheme and play calling and this and that. With Mike Tomlin, it's just a matter of, okay, I'm going to just sit back and kind of let him self-destruct as compared to me having to force my will on him.
Okay. No, that's fair. So you would still then say, just really quick, so the Chiefs are the only team you still feel, everything being normal, like not a fucked up coaching game, that's the only team right now you would say you would have above the Ravens.
Everything being normal, no crazy injuries to key guys, no crazy weather circumstance, pouring down rain or some wild shit like that. The Chiefs, until I see it, the Chiefs are the only team that the Ravens can't beat.
No, it's valid. We'll go over to the NBA real quick here. I got two more things before I get you out of here. The Cavaliers are 15-0, man. That's got to mean something, right?
No, it don't.
Like,
it don't, because I looked at the schedule yesterday because it intrigued me too. I didn't want to be dismissive of it because it's not something to just be dismissive of. But when you look at the schedule, it's kind of something to be dismissive of. They played the Bucks twice. They played the Bulls twice. They've gone down to the wire with a few teams that a 15-0 team at least shouldn't. They beat the dog shit out the Warriors, so shout out to them for that.
That's a good one.
But The schedule is like, it's a little.
Man, the East is terrible right now. Like it's just there's
It
and
does stink. It
it's
does
like
stink.
there's
It
and I
does
know
stink.
it's been a trope because we just essentially like the East is top teams have always been able to compete with the West, but for the last I feel like the last decade plus, like when you start going like seed 5 through 8, it's like okay, the West is significantly better the deeper down you go. And this year it's even worse. Um because I think the Knicks just finally passed, but it was like there was the Celtics and the Cavs were the only teams over 500 up until a few days ago, and I'm like, that's not like a real stat. Like, don't y'all get paid to coach and play? Anyway, man, the East is again. I agree with you because I was looking at their schedule as well. The Cavaliers to beat the Pelicans, but the Pelicans got $100 million and 100 points on their bench injured. So it's like, what do you want us to do, guys? Um, so we're gonna do a little bit more baseball next week because obviously we don't have the awards this week, and I think most of them, pretty much everybody, they just announced about 20 minutes ago. Paul Skeens won Rookie of the Year. I think that one's pretty obvious. Um, NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. And yes, we have to bring this up. It's part of the context here. 4 touchdowns, 80% completion. Looked pretty good, man. And Drake London played. And I was told by someone that I respect and trust very much that if Drake London plays, that was going to be the difference in the game.
If Michael Penix didn't start though,
So Kirk Cousins was worse than Michael Penix?
I mean, yes, obviously. You saw the score. I saw the score. Obviously, he was. Shit.
Oh, man.
But I when you and you do what you do, being who you are, I as we get older, I just let you do it. I sit back and I let you do what you do because
I got mad Rookie of the Year quotes off.
every single time this happens, probably a week or 3, 4 days later, it's X person strained hamstring, X person
Hey
pulled
man,
his calf,
don't do this to me.
X person
Don't do this to me.
shoulder
Don't do this
injury.
to me.
So
No,
I'm
no, no, no,
like, you
no.
know what? He
Don't do
ain't
this to
learned
me.
yet. He ain't learned yet.
Don't
So
do this to me, man.
I'ma let it be.
We
I'ma
got
let it
excitement.
be.
We 6-5 that beat the
Let
over.
it be.
I'll be honest with you. My betting record this year. So normally I don't ever bet Denver. That's just always kind of been my rule because I've never truly like taken away like the emotional personal fan part out of it versus just like the
Fair,
straight bets. This is
fair.
the first year I've ever done it. I have lost my ass on like 90% of bets. Still pissed at Jonathan Taylor and the coaching staff. 90% of bets that are non-Denver related. My Denver bets, which again, I never did until this year. I've been smoking them. Like I didn't bet the first 2 weeks. I didn't want to do it. Bo's first game going into Seattle, what I thought was going to be a better defense than they've played this year. I was like, all right, that's a tough game. And then they had the Steelers in week 2, even though it's at home, but it's like, all right, the Steelers, TJ Watt, all this. And then just randomly in Tampa, I was like, you know what? Because I think it was like a 9-point spread against Tampa. And I'm like, oh, Tampa ain't that good. And now Tampa, mind you, was coming off a win against Detroit. They're the only team to beat Detroit this year. But I was like, Tampa ain't that good. I've been smoking almost all of my Denver bets. The only one that I lost my ass on, which is unfortunate if you look at which is ignore the amount of money I placed per bet. But the Charger game I got smoked on. Down 23-0, you ain't covering shit. So besides that though, man, 6-5, 19 touchdowns leading all rookies. I'm just saying. We get franchise QB, 61 college starts. Sometimes that shit helps.
I guess. I guess.
And I'll say this, and I'm fair in true respect. I think Caleb's situation. I think Caleb has more talent on his roster. I think there's a lot more dysfunction in Chicago than people wanted to acknowledge. And that's kind of coming to the surface. I think he has only caught Jaden because I believe Jaden's ribs are hurt a lot more than he's willing to let on. And he's still playing through them.
Yeah.
But I will say, if I'm just going on a play-for-play basis, and this was your guy before the draft, like obviously Caleb was your guy because USC, Drake Mace probably looked the best play-for-play, especially if you consider, like, no one thought Denver's roster was shit going into the season. We all knew New England's roster was horrible. Like, we did the preview show, and we're like, yo, this easily could be the worst team in the league. And they looked at with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And Drake, these last couple of games, like, no one gives a fuck about obviously the wins and losses, even though they did beat they beat the Jets, right?
They beat the No, they beat the Jets with Jacoby. They beat the
Oh,
damn, who did they
they
beat?
beat the Bears. That's right.
They beat
They
the
beat
Bears.
the
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
8
and
sacks.
yeah, and I'm like, if you do now, I don't think he's gonna have enough time in total stats potentially by the time the year's over. Again, I think Bo right now is probably in the best position, factors included. Drake to me right now has looked like the best QB on just a play for play basis. What he's doing with that roster, with that little bit of talent, and I know that was your guy coming out. So I don't know if you had anything you want to add on to that.
He's just it's you're saying to get better every week. Is You're saying to get better every week. He's just fuck. He's so good. He is so good, and they just have to. A lot of the Patriots people in my life, a lot of Patriots homies. I got want Travis Hunter, and I get it, but they get him a solid line first.
A
Get
thousand
him
percent.
get him a solid line first, and kind of piece around that. He's
Mhm.
going to give them. He's going to give them the Josh Allen effect, and that is going to be something that they have not had. Obviously Tom was incredible for that for that dynasty and that time. It is a different style of quarterback, and what you
Mhm.
need in the 2020s and on is what Drake May can give them. And as long as they build this right, just keep building this right. Do not rush this. You do not have to rush this. Take time with it, piece it all together because he is going to take them places.
No, I agree. Again, like I said, he's been like if you just go like their best performance, like Drake might end up with the best perform. Obviously, like both stats from yesterday are crazy, but like if you go the play for play, eye test best performance, I would not be shocked if by the end of this year Drake's had the best, especially again considering he's working with less talent than any of the other rookies. Um, and appreciate you as always for coming on. We got a new commit for USC. What's your boy's name?
Yeah, Hussein.
Yeah. See, Lincoln Riley's doing some recruiting. He's trying to build the back up.
No, that was big because fucking before we about to get out of here, but we, it was an open secret essentially. Like it was an open secret that they were going to that they were going to lose fucking lost the kid's name already. Julian Lewis. It was
Okay.
like an open secret that they were going to lose Julian Lewis as the season went on. Like he committed to SC, but he still had his recruiting open. Like it was a lot of stupid shit with that. So to get Longstreet, California kid, probably a probably a better physical quarterback for what Lincoln wants to run.
Mhm.
It was big yesterday. Like that was the first step of kind of re-solidifying the California pipeline, getting more hometown guys in, and let's get this shit rolling. Like it don't gotta be the playoff tomorrow. But like let's get back to a place where this is a serious team. Because right now this is an unserious team, an unserious school. So like let's get shit back on track.
Man, I'm so excited. Like I'm gonna hate it as a fan, but I'm gonna be excited. So let me tell y'all, the amount of shit. Like I tweeted out the other day, the Red Sox are either trying to write $1 billion apology letter, or they're going full Jerry Jones. And let me tell y'all, by the time these winter meetings is over, we're gonna have a fun ass Monday.
I'm gonna tell you right now, they cannot fool me. They can fool some of the people some of the time, but you ain't fooling all the people all of the time. And I'm all of the goddamn people. I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it.
Oh man, I appreciate you as always. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.
hard left in this one. I don't even think I'm necessarily wrong, just in terms of what happened on Sunday, but I think Sunday was the first time I thought this is actually a big issue, which the hard left is. I think I'm done defending John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, Tony has been telling me for the last several weeks, has never been a great coach. He's just been a good coach, but a message that's dying out because he's been there for so long. And I've given some pushback on that. I do think John, in my opinion, mainly because of his success, has always been he's a really good head coach. And then obviously all these guys need players, right? Like John Harbaugh inherited Ray Lewis. He inherited Ed Reed. He got a young Joe Flacco who turned into a great quarterback. But I was watching the game on Sunday and I'm like, look, man, I'm all for being creative, especially in the goal line. Andy Reid has made that really popular. All these reverse gadget plays that specifically he's been able to pull off. But the reality is, why are we doing a direct snap to Derrick Henry on fourth down? The most dangerous, most effective